So we're going to start out by giving you a little bit of an overview of some instructional cycles that we used in order to create different lessons that can be delivered in a flipped, blended, or even if you're using centers in your classroom. So if you scroll down a little bit, Ruth, we will go through some general material in the beginning. Keep going. And all of those slides and that information will be there for you. And then what we have done is we have created some lessons based on those models. We're going to go through them and we're going to tell you what features of Wakelet we used in order to build those. And then we have some resource material at the bottom that will allow you to kind of dig a little bit deeper, because if you've not used Wakelet before, it's very simple and very intuitive, and there's a lot of great material out there to teach you how to use the different features of it. But we've included some videos and also some articles and a how-to guide so that any of the things that we talk about, you don't have to worry about wondering how to find out how to do that. That information will be embedded in there. There is also a note taker for you. The very first resource under the header that says additional resources is a little note taker that we created that you can click on, and it will force you to make a copy, and you can take notes in there if you want, if you're looking for a way in which to do that. Okay. So she's going to copy the link and drop it in there for you. So what is Wakelet? If you're unfamiliar with Wakelet, it's a free platform, which in this day and age is just fantastic. It's free and it stays free for educators. It's a free platform. It lets you save, organize, curate, from all over the web. You can pull different types of materials into lesson content, into a collection, so that students could navigate independently. Or if you're delivering a lesson, say, on a whiteboard at the front of the classroom, you could do it together. You can use to implement flipped or blended learning. And really, by creating lessons this way, it allows students to be more self-reliant and gives you as an instructor some time to work with kids who are struggling. There's a lot of flexibility in here, both on what you can embed and how you can use it. So let's just look at how simple it is to add things to a Wakelet. So once you've created your account and you say you want to create a new collection, you'll get this top piece here. If you want to add a cover image, those are those banners that you will see at the top of the ones that we do. You can create your own. We create ours in Canva so that we can add some additional information. Sometimes you just select an image that really kind of creates the vibe of whatever it is you're trying to do. Then you give it a title. Right underneath, this is Ruth's playground, where we go out and just play around and destroy. And then if you want, you can write a description for your collection, but you don't have to. The next thing you're going to see as you begin to add resources to your collection, you can change the layout of how the collection is designed. Right now, you'll see everything is very linear, goes right into row. That's the media view. So if you're trying to organize a lesson for students, sometimes that's a great way to do it, because then they just work their way from the top to the bottom, right? Then the compact view will compress everything a little bit. Some people like to use the grid view, which just puts everything side by side. It's probably between the grid view and the mood board. It'll remind you a little bit of Pinterest. The mood board is kind of like organized chaos. The grid view will put two things side by side and work your way down. So sometimes, depending upon how you are designing, you may choose to have an image that says one thing that appears in the column on the left, and then the column on the right would be whatever the students were going to work on. That takes a little bit of planning in terms of how you lay it out so it looks right when you hit grid view. So you've got flexibility. It's just as easy as going back anytime you want, clicking on that change layout and trying it. I mean, I would say do your things and see if you're putting together, if you're curating a group of resources, you might do it as a mood board so that when people hit it, they'll think a little bit more of like Pinterest when they hit it. Okay, so the key to adding something, right? You just look for that green plus sign. It doesn't get easier than that. So when you click on the green plus sign, you get an opportunity to add things. And this is where the power really begins. The first space that you have there is you can copy and paste in any web address. So if you are sitting on a blog post, if you are looking at a website that you want to be able to come back to, maybe you are trying to curate some resources for students based on a book that they're reading, all you have to do is copy and paste in the URL, and it will automatically create. Now, what will happen when it comes up is you'll see that it pulls some information from that site that you just pasted the URL in from. One of the great things is you have the latitude to change that information, because maybe there's something about that site that you really want people to hone in on. So you can hover over it once it's on there, and you can click the pencil so that you can edit it, and it'll give you a chance to edit the text or even add an image. Oftentimes when you copy and paste in a URL and it brings up the item on your collection, it will bring with it an image from that site. You can certainly change that image if you want, or you can leave the one that comes up. So all you have to do is click on the pencil under the image, and you can choose to upload your own, or you could choose one from the library, and that library is going to take you to Unsplash. So you know that there's all kinds of good stuff out there on Unsplash. So you might be trying to, do things thematically. So it's very simple, right? All you do is you click on the plus sign, you pop in the URL of the site that you want folks to be able to come back to. And then when you're done editing and you give the link to your collection to someone, they'll be able to click right on that image and it will take them out to the site. Okay, so let's look at some other things that you can add when you are doing this, because again, that's the power. You can add text, and you'll see some of this when we're going through the lessons that we created. All you have to do is click on that first icon to the right there, and it'll say add text. And you're just going to get your basic text editor, right? You can just start typing away. You've got just a minimal amount of choices, and sometimes the beauty is in the simplicity, right? So you can bold, italicize, underline. You got a couple of heading choices. You can make a bulleted list, and you can center it, and you can add a link into whatever the text is that you have added. You could make the entire block of text the link, or just a piece of the text inside of that. That's it. And then once you're done typing, you click done, and it adds that text. So if you're thinking, because we've been talking about how we're going to look at lessons, this is a way to start to give some instruction or direction to students, and to organize your lesson within the collection that you're going to create. Okay, so let's look at a few other things. You can add an image. And again, the image can come from your own device, or you can add an image from the library, which again will go back to Unsplash. You can add bookmarks, or you can add PDFs, or you can also add tweets. If you click on tweets, now one of the great things, I don't know if any of you participate in Twitter chats, but this is a great way to archive a Twitter chat, or to pull some Twitter chat resources if you're out there farming for good stuff. So you can search for a particular hashtag, or you can search for a user. And then in order to add, it'll tell you when you search for that particular hashtag, it'll tell you how many tweets are sitting out there that you can grab. And then you can put a check mark. You can check each of them, or you can select all of them. So if you're trying to do a curation, say for a Twitter chat that you attended, you might want to curate all of those that are out there. But every once in a while, you know, somebody co-ops a hashtag you may be using for a Twitter chat. So you do have the latitude to add them one by one. There's a little circle next to each tweet, and you could choose to select or not select individual ones. And then all you have to do is click add, and it will add those to your collection. And sometimes it takes a bit when we've got a lot. And so you see how it drops it right in there, each one of them. So if you were looking for a great way to curate resources, or archive a Twitter chat, you could do it that way. Okay, let's look at just a couple other things so you can see how many other great things you can embed. So we're going to go to the waffle down there at the end, click on that. And in addition to Twitter, you can add FlipGrid video. You can add YouTube. You can add things from if you're adding FlipGrid, what you're doing is if you have a teacher account, you're able to add a FlipGrid short. So you can record right in your collection. And that's a great way, especially if you're working with littles, to be able to give them some instructions, because sometimes the kids just really like to hear your voice and to see your face. So it's also a great way to be able to check in. Students don't have the latitude to add the FlipGrid shorts, but you can embed FlipGrid in a Wakelet, and you would do that by using the URL. Okay, so YouTube, you can embed YouTube, and I'm going to tell you one of the things that I really like about embedding YouTube, and we're going to see it in just a second, is when you use YouTube, you can change some of the settings on the video that you're watching. You can change whether it's HD, you can lower that resolution, or you can also speed up or slow down the video. So if you've got kids that have some challenges and need to hear things a little bit more slowly, YouTube will play right within the collection, so it doesn't bring all that extra advertising and all that extra stuff on the periphery with it. You'll be able to watch it right in there, but you can still make the change to the speed of what you are watching. So all you do is you can search for a particular video, and when you find one you like, you can just click on it and say add. Or you could have just if you knew the URL, you could have just pasted it in there and brought it up right away. So when you click on it to play it, oh yeah, we'll do that when we get in the other one, Ruth, because that'll take too long. I'll show you what it looks like when you do that. So there's a lot of media you can put in here. And you can bring things over directly from your G Drive or from your OneDrive if you're a Microsoft shop. Okay, so those are that's the absolute basics. We're going to look a little bit at Immersive Reader, and we're going to look at we could do read mode if you want to do that. If you've got something in here, we can do read mode. Read mode right now is on is in beta testing, but what it will do is it will bring up a website, and it will remove the noise on the outside and allow you to that Bloom's taxonomy might work. We'll do that when we get on the other one. Okay, so those are the basics of being able to add things to a Wakelet. really simple. You can create a space to work collaboratively with people where you can group together different Wakelets and people can add to that space, or you could choose to have people collaborate on a Wakelet with you. And this is a great way to have kids add to a Wakelet without having to have an account. And what you would do is you would invite them to your Wakelet, and you can invite them by giving them the code, or if they use QR codes, you can give them the QR code, or you can copy the link, whatever way you're comfortable sharing information with your kids. So I really like the fact that kids don't necessarily have to have an account. So 13 and up could have an account, and then you could still do collaborative work with your kids where they can all add to a Wakelet if each of them, say, are having a part of a lesson that you're working on and you're building something together. Okay.
So what I want to talk about a little bit is why we're using Wakelet. Wakelet is learner-centered in that, teachers can build whatever when they want to build a lesson. They can identify that, what pieces that their children need because of the uniqueness of the child. If they have a class of unique children, which we all do, they can really help the kids engage and become active learners. And so, when we've got, improved participation, improved retention of knowledge, and developing the problem-solving skills of our kids, all of those great things we can really foster right here in Wakelet. It's great for blended learning because the bottom line is, it allows you to serve up to the kids just about anything. I mean, it really and truly, you can embed, like Karen showed you, just about anything. Videos, personalized videos, all kinds of things. So I want to talk a little bit about instructional cycles, which is going to be, and let me just make these a little bigger for you so you can see them. Just want to talk a little bit about instructional cycles, just so that you understand what we're talking about when we talk about instructional cycles. We know that the traditional instructional cycle means that you've established your learning goals, you're providing learning opportunities, that you're assessing what the students have learned, and that you're using the results from that assessment. And that's, kind of standard. We all know when we do that. The great thing here is that when we talk about instructional cycles, when we're talking about using them for this idea of the Wakelet Hub, we're talking about arranging things using the 5E. And I'm sure you're familiar with the 5E. If you're not, we've got a resource on the site, on the Wakelet for you. Both the abbreviated version of the 5E and an extended version of the 5E. Or if you are into playlists, you can deliver a playlist. If you're into workshops and having your students do the workshop model, we have one that we can show you that is the workshop model. And then we have the hero's journey that you can use as well. And so all these different kinds of ways to structure the things that you're serving up your kids, you can use Wakelet to do some of that. So let's take a look at Immersive Reader. Karen?
Alrighty. When you use Immersive Reader, if you have folks, and this is not necessarily just for folks who have either reading or language challenges, sometimes folks just want to have things read to them. We put a little passage.
Oh, we did, sorry.
We put a little passage at the bottom of the Wakelet collection that we shared with you. so that we could run Immersive Reader. When we're running it right within a collection, it's going to read the text that you have added in a text box. In this instance, it looks like a book with a speaker on it. This is technology that was born out of Microsoft. So if you are a Microsoft shop, you should have a level of familiarity with this. So if you click on that icon, what it's going to do is it will open up Immersive Reader, and what you see in front of you is the text that was in that text space that we added in the collection. And down in the bottom center of your window, you will have a play button. And when you play it, it will read back to you. And this is terrific. And the other thing that's great is if you've got kids have got issues with tracking, they can follow along, and you've got some options to change. Right to the immediate right of the play button on the bottom when you're in the Immersive Reader window is a speaker. If you click on that, you'll see that you've got some options, and those options will allow you to change the voice speed of what's playing and will allow you to change it to male or female. Then the other stuff, the real power in Immersive Reader, comes in the upper right-hand corner. And you see the text preferences. So if you click on the double A's in the upper right-hand corner, you're going to get an opportunity to adjust the size of the text that's on the screen. You can increase the spacing that's between it. You can change the font. There are 3 fonts, right? You've got a serif font, a sans serif font, one that has basically hooks and feet on it, and one that doesn't. And then you've got Comic Sans, which we all joke about being the elementary school teacher font. But there is some research out there that says Comic Sans works well for some students with some visual challenges. You can also change the theme, where you're changing the color scheme of the way that it looks on your screen, again, for folks that may have some visual issues. The center icon in the upper right-hand corner allows you to turn on syllables. So if you're want to see syllables between words, or if you are working with kids and perhaps you're having them reading a passage, you can have them turn on nouns or other parts of speech. And then if they don't see colors well, you can have them turn on that label button at the bottom, and then that will put the label over. You have to click on, say, nouns or one of those. Yep. And then when you show the label, it'll write the label above it, again, in case somebody's got some visual issues or needs that additional cue. Okay. Also in the upper right-hand corner, you've got a book. And that book is going to allow you to change line focus, which is how many lines appear when it is reading to you. Again, it's a focus issue. And you can turn on the picture dictionary if you're working with littles. It keys off of Boardmaker, if any of you are familiar with that. And then the other thing you can do is you can translate this text into other languages. Again, if you've got folks who English is not their native language, sometimes it's really about them being able to connect with the text as opposed to whether or not they can read it in English. So there are a host of languages that the text can be translated into. Not all languages can be read out loud, but you can certainly translate the text into another language. You can either do a word or you could do the whole document. So that's the power of Immersive Reader. If you don't have familiarity with that, this is a great resource to have, and it doesn't matter who the student is. Nobody else knows whether or not they're using that Immersive Reader tool, because it's just between them and whatever device they're working on. So you can also use that in read mode. Read mode is where you click. I'll show you where that is. It will bring up the website, and it will remove all of the noise that's around the outside of it. So if you hover over an item that's been added to a collection, in the upper right hand corner you'll see what looks like a little page of paper, and that's the read mode. So if you click on that, it's going to open it up within Wakelet, and so now you've got any of the extraneous stuff removed from the outside. The other thing you can do is, you'll see if you look at the menu bar at the top, is you can run Immersive Reader on that. So a lot of ways to be able to allow students to engage with the text in the way in which they need it when they need it. So a lot of powerful features built in. Okay.
Okay. Did we show the integration?
When you want to share, if you're using either Google, if you're using Teams to deliver, if you're using Google Classroom, you can share directly into that to remind out onto Twitter, Reddit, Facebook. All of those are immediate. You can also embed it into a website. You see that in the bottom right hand corner, or you can export whatever you created as a PDF. So there's a lot of, and this gets added to quite a bit. They add features all the time, and the benefit for those of us in education is that it stays free, which is not the norm. Okay.
So, want to just go through and talk to you a little bit about some of our examples of using Wakelet as the hub. All of these great pieces that we've talked to you about, put them all together, and then you can deliver something that students can learn from. And, semi-independently for some of the kids, depending upon, how old they are and that kind of thing. So this first one is a hero's journey model. I'm just going to open that up here, and you can see that it's a lesson for high school kids who are in a culinary arts program. And so we start here with the call to adventure, which is part of the hero's journey. This is a question about, foodborne illness. What is foodborne illness? How do you know it? That kind of thing. And then the first thing that the students are to do, because this is an interactive type thing, is they need to post an idea to the Padlet. We're going to mimic here graffiti conversation, doing it online, because, sometimes doing it online is what the kids need to do as opposed to doing it on paper. So that is what we've got the Padlet embedded for, so that they can do that graffiti convo. Then we've got the area called entering the unknown, right? So in order to enter the unknown, the kids have to do some research. So they're going to research foodborne illness. And here are the sites that the teacher has already selected for the kids to go to, so that they could learn about foodborne illness a little bit more. And you can see here, we've embedded also a note taker for the students to use as they are going through and learning more about their foodborne illness ideas. So that's that part. Then there's the meeting the mentor, which is, typically focused around either videos or having the students come actually to class, having done the first part perhaps as a flipped assignment. So they're going to class, they're having some lecture or a mini workshop within their class. So in this one, they've got some videos to listen to prepare for that class section where they're going to, talk to the teacher and have that mentor meeting, and understand a little bit more about, foodborne illness. And then there's the transformation. And so in their transformation, the students then become proponents of battling the foodborne illness, and they create a PSA, a public service announcement about foodborne illness and, how to avoid it. And so they're asked to add their PSA to the class gallery. And the teacher has given them, this is an Animoto assignment. And here they've embedded also the template for them to use as they are beginning to try their hand at organizing that PSA. So you can see where all of the information that they need has been organized in the way that the teacher wants to have it organized, and all the pieces are there so that the kids can kind of semi-independently move through this activity and this lesson. So that's that one. I think the next one is We're Not From Here.
We're Not From Here is a lesson that was created to go along with a book that someone would be reading. It's a playlist. So we're going to start out with getting ready to read and being provided with the basic instructions. And again, depending upon what level you are teaching, you will change the amount of instructions that someone receives. And then one of the things that we wanted to point out in the We're Not From Here is some different things that we had embedded. So we're asking what kind of predictions we can make because we're doing some pre-reading strategies here. And we've embedded a Quizlet, which has introduces students to vocabulary that they're going to come across once they've started with the book. And then we've got other pre-reading activities where we created a Google form and embedded that form in there in order for them to complete. So all of this stuff is then inside of this particular collection. And one of the things, another thing that you can embed is this is a Microsoft PowerPoint. And in this instance, we wanted kids to be able to work together. So that PowerPoint was delivered out of OneDrive, and there is a slide. It's graphic organizer, and there is a slide in there for each student to complete. And so each student plants their flag on a slide, puts their name on it, and then completes the activity. And then every student has the benefit of seeing the other students' work. And then the teacher can open a single document, obviously, and be able to see everybody's work in there as well. Another thing that we did here to give students a different mode of input was to embed a SoundCloud audio file, which is a section from the book to be able to get them excited about reading the book. And again, we incorporated Padlet for them to be able to do a post on Padlet. So then at the end of each of these, when we create these, we create teacher notes that might give them specific things they want to think about before they get started with it. And then they can go ahead and remove this section from the teacher notes from it when they're ready to launch it and share the link with the students.
So this is another playlist. We did a playlist for a professional development activity that we worked with some coaches. And so this one's a real straightforward. It's got some things for them to look at and consider in terms of, it's really taking them on a test drive on a website. And so then they've got some things that they need to investigate. And then here's an activity for them to do. And then another group of things for them to investigate, and then another activity. It's just a regular playlist, but it is for professional learning. So we wanted you guys to have a chance to see something that's a little bit different in terms of not necessarily being for students, but also you can use it for professional learning. So you can see that they've got these 4 activities, or 5 activities, and then just taking a tour and stopping and thinking about what they see on the site, how it might be beneficial to them. The next one we've got is the workshop model. And here in the workshop model, this is a cultural sensitivity workshop for a mass media class in high school. And the idea here is, the students have to understand microaggression because, they need to understand what it is. So it starts out with a quick write, and sometimes you are using things that, don't necessarily have to be technology driven. So this quick write is actually sit down write, quick write, on a piece of paper. And then beyond that, they have to learn about more microaggression. And then the idea is that they create their public service announcement and then they share the public service announcement to the Padlet. It's just, again, following that workshop structure so that students have the opportunity to engage in a more open kind of, not as scripted or prescriptive kind of road that they have to take with their instruction.
This particular lesson, and while it's done for younger kids, this we wanted to use this lesson to show you the different things that you can, additional things that can be embedded. These are examples of the 5E model. It was born out of NASA. And in this particular one, some of the things that are different, you'll see the FlipGrid short. If we slide down, you should see a FlipGrid short. There's my little round face. And those are instructions to my littles that are telling them that the next thing they're going to do is take a virtual tour of Mount Vernon. And again, this is a great way to bring in a different modality, and for little kids or any student for that matter to be able to see and to hear you. This also has big huge labs in it. I'm not sure if you're familiar with big huge labs, but it allows a teacher to create a class on the back end. And there are lots of different templates inside of big huge labs, and you can make an assignment there, whether it's a motivational poster or trading card or other things that allows them to kind of synthesize the material you want them to know. And if you can distill it down into that really simple stuff for them to be able to put it on a motivational poster or a trading card or a movie poster or a magazine cover, then you know that they really understand the essence of what it was you had wanted them to get. So you can make that assignment, and if you've set your class up on the back end, the submission for that just happens through big huge labs right into the teacher's class. So there isn't anything extra that a student has to do once they've logged in to work on that. We've got a Google form embedded in here. And then the other thing here is we've got ReadWorks, which is a product that a school division would contract with. So you can embed a link to whatever those things are that might be prescribed materials that have to be done within your division or within your college. And as long as they've got their login, you pass the class code on to them, they can just go right in because they know this is the time in the lesson where I'm supposed to be doing that particular activity in there. And so you can pass them right in there. And then we've also got on this particular 5E model, you always want them to reflect. And then we have added some information at the end for early finishers. So if you get done early, here's what I want you to do. And then there's also information in here for the teacher, like if you've got a more advanced group or you want to do something different, here are some other ideas. And then these would be the things that the teacher would make a decision on and then remove when they're ready to use it with their students. And then if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see that you can embed a Google map right inside of the Wakelet, because in this case, we're going to be looking at what surrounds Mount Vernon. So there's part of what I like about this when you're talking about, curating different kinds of things is just the wide variety of media that can be included in here.
So the next one is a 5E model. This is again a pre-reading activity for this one is the Children of Blood and Bone. And so in this reading activity, there's trying to set the stage for the students who are going to read the book, understanding the concept of tyranny. And so the first part is to engage, and they've got a speed chat that they were going to do. So there's a link here to a FlipGrid so that they can just off the top of their heads talk about whether or not they think tyranny can be justified and what can you do to change tyranny, just to kind of engage them. And then under the explore, there's a Microsoft form embedded so that the kids can go there, and then there are some quotes on tyranny to do a little bit more of a critical thinking type exercise to learn a little bit more about that concept, and a video, always video. Two different things on tyranny, one that's a little more comical than the other. Then there's the chance to explain what you've learned about tyranny. And here again, you'd seen us use the vocabulary Frere model kind of slide where the students go into the slide, they pick one that's not been used, and they answer what they've learned about tyranny, so that you've kind of got almost like a formative assessment to see whether or not they've kind of got the concept. Then there's the elaboration, and then the evaluation. And here for the evaluation, they're going to create a motivational poster using that big, huge labs that Karen talked about, or Adobe Spark, so that they can define tyranny using a poster. So I noticed that the chat has been very active, and I'm so sorry we've not been able to really get to a lot of those questions, but I do see this question about learner analytics, and there isn't a teacher dashboard for Wakelet. Wakelet is used by a lot of teachers, but it doesn't have necessarily a student component. Students can get there using the codes that you generate, and they can use it anonymously, especially younger students. But there is no teacher dashboard component. So this is another PD example that we have for you. And it's this was an example to actually bring this type of activity to a group of teachers so that they could understand what the possibilities were, And so you've got this is an abbreviated 5E. So you've got explore, where they've got some videos to explore along with your a couple of articles. Then they've got explain, where they've been asked to explain what they think about legacy is, and so that there's a little explain kind of activity for them. And then apply, where they're supposed to apply what they've learned. So that's a different abbreviated form of the 5E. A lot of times they use that in the K2 levels so that the students just do that explore, explain, apply.
Okay. And we're right up close to the end, so I'm thinking that maybe what we do, this is an extended 5E, but maybe what we need to do is just field some questions and go back to the top so everybody can see the information that you had at the top. How about that?
Sure.
So we just wanted to make sure that folks understood the different types of lessons that were laid out, the hero's journey, the playlist, the workshop and the 5E model, and then just the breadth of things that can be incorporated into it to round out what you do. And I think Cynthia had mentioned in the chat that yes, they're working on bringing out a teacher dashboard. So the analytics, while you can see how many folks are hitting your Wakelet, the analytics are going to be expanding. So if anybody has any specific questions for us, I think there's like 3 minutes left. We just want to make sure that we don't overlook something that someone needs.
I saw that we had a couple of ambassadors in the crowd, and they were fielding a lot of the questions, and I really want to just reach out and thank them, ambassador to ambassador, for helping us out. I really appreciate some of that.
There are so many different ways that you can use this tool. We chose today to just really kind of speak to delivering a lesson. And I noticed that someone had asked about putting it in an LMS, and you could see that you could drop it directly into Teams or into Google Classroom. But of course, because you've got a URL for it, you can pretty much put it into everything. So I just want to see, Ruth, are you looking at the questions?
How accessible are the slide images? Do you mean in terms of, can they read the slide images?
Yeah, so sorry. Just as an example, on the page that you're on now, when you scroll down, there were some slides. They looked like slides, but they were just images. So things like that, do they have alt text, or because it looked like they were images. So if you clicked on the magnifying glass, you could see it in a bigger view and then move between slides, but it didn't look like the text was accessible.
Yeah, they are images, and they don't have alt text.
And when you click on them, they'll enlarge. And I would, if it was something that I needed folks to have, I would probably have put that in here in a different way. And I would have given them an opportunity then to be able to run
Immersive Reader
Reader on it.
On the explanation of it, sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions? I think we have like 1 minute.
It's very intuitive. It's very simple, and it has lots of different ways that you can use it. We used it in a college class with kids in there who were putting together a portfolio of their work. So there's just a host of different things, or they can take notes, or they can curate things they're finding when they're working on a research paper, or they can put together a gallery walk. I mean, it's just an enormous amount of options. All right, I don't think I see any other questions, unless someone's got one. I hear a microphone on.
That was just me turning on to
All
thank you
right.
for your presentation. And yes, then being very mindful to wrap things up here at the end, I'm going to go ahead and stop recording now.